Hi, PerspectiveWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Monday, October 28th. Well, the big story of the week, weather-wise, will be this widespread cold air outbreak for the western half of the nation into the central plains. It has already begun with some record or near record lows this morning out across the interior part of the western U.S., including some monthly record low temperatures being set across places like Jackson Hole, Wyoming, where it's down to 1 degrees above zero right now, and that is the coldest ever recorded out there for the month of October. Could drop a couple more degrees. It's still very early out in Wyoming. Colder air will have some trouble expanding to the east. It looks like the frontal system at the leading edge of the colder air will arrive in the eastern U.S. somewhere around the Thursday night, early Friday time frame. Certainly looks like it raises the possibility of some heavy rainfall in the eastern third of the nation during the second half of the week, and that includes some possible rain on Halloween Day, which happens to be Thursday, October 31st. Well, here is the latest map of record or near record lows out across the western U.S. from coolweather.com. Again, some of these are near record lows or already record lows for the month. This, for example, Jackson Hole down to 1 degree above zero right now. They could drop another degree or two. This whole area will see some record cold over the next couple of days. This is actually just the opening salvo. There's a secondary push of colder air that will come into the western part of the nation, the Rocky Mountains, and spill out over into the Central Plains. And this includes accumulating snow as well in the Rocky Mountains, and even a band of snow could fall from Nebraska to Wisconsin over the next few days. Well, here's a look at the current surface map. A nice day setting up for much of the eastern U.S. after a rainy day on Sunday, especially during the morning hours along the I-95 corridor. There were some heavy downpours, and then skies clear later in the day, became very mild, and it looks like we'll start off the work week in the east with nice weather. But this is cold front number one right here that has, again, ushered in not only some cold air, but some record-breaking cold air. Places like Wyoming, again, 2 or 3 different cities reporting the monthly low temperature record. In northern Utah as well. Vernal, Utah, down to 12 degrees. That's the coldest ever recorded in the month of October. Here's another cold pusher. This is kind of a reinforcing Arctic blast that arrives in the west. The Rocky Mountains spills out over into the Central Plains. So very cold for this time of the year over the next few days out across much of the western half of the nation. Well, here's a current look at the radar map from WSI's and Telecast.com, and a lot of snow out there in the western half of the nation across southern, southwestern part of Canada associated with this Arctic air. Some falling right now in New Mexico and Colorado. Other areas of snow across Montana and Idaho. And again, there can be a stretch of snow extending from Nebraska all the way to Wisconsin over the next few days. Meanwhile, back in the east, a nice day to start off the work week. Well, we've been talking about this cold air outbreak for the western half of the nation for several days now. Let's take a look at the very latest ensemble run of the GFS. This is from 6Z, and first of all, warm in the east. Again, this follows a wet morning on Sunday in the I-95 corridor, but a warm afternoon with clearing skies, and it stays relatively mild for this time of the year in the east as we start off the new work week. But look at out here in the western half of the nation. Again, some extreme cold for this time of the year out in Wyoming, Jackson Hole. Monthly low temperature record this morning, and a secondary push of that Arctic air poised to drop into the northwestern U.S. over the next 12 hours or so. Nice frontal system right in between these particular areas right now. But again, it'll take quite a while for this colder air to reach the mid-Atlantic region. In fact, let's push forward here and see what happens. This is an even more impressive cold air outbreak that arrives overnight tonight in the northwest U.S. and into the early part of Tuesday, and that just drops down. Again, that will be associated with some accumulating snow. Denver could actually see temperatures drop not far from 0 degrees over the next few days with this particular cold air outbreak. They reached 9 degrees for a low earlier this month, which was very impressive indeed and a record breaker for the date. And this is even colder air moving in. And again, expect many, many record low temperatures out across the Rocky Mountain states, all the way up across the Central Plains, and some snow can accumulate from Nebraska all the way to Wisconsin also over the next few days. Meanwhile, in the east, we stay on the mild side. This is the middle part of the week now, and it looks like that mild air hangs on through Halloween. However, it's very likely to be wet and windy in the eastern third of the nation. Here is where that frontal system will be around Halloween afternoon, Halloween evening. So ahead of the front in the east, expect windy conditions, mild, wet, occasional showers, and then later on Thursday night, probably late at night Thursday night into early Friday, this front finally arrives, and it could very well be some heavy rainfall associated with that in the eastern third of the nation. And then it turns cooler on Friday, and then even colder on Saturday. And it looks like this is the Saturday morning forecast mapper, and we're looking at 850 millibar temperature anomalies. By the way, these maps from tropicaltidbits.com. Looks like once that cooler than normal air arrives in the east, it'll stick around. In fact, really the month of November is looking quite colder than normal in much of the eastern half of the nation, and certainly will stay below normal, looks like, for the most part through the first week of the month of October. And again, don't be surprised if November as a whole turns out to be colder than normal, much of the eastern half of the nation. And here we go, another push of cold air. This is now into the early part of next week. We're a week away, but the point is, once we get colder than normal, looks like we'll stay colder than normal in the Mid-Atlantic region, the Northeast, as well as the Midwest and Northern Plains. Well, let's take a look at the surface maps from last night's 6C GFS model run. Again, starting off the day with decent conditions in the eastern third of the nation, with high pressure still in control, relatively mild. But here we go, some snow and accumulating snow at that out across the Rocky Mountain states. Here is some snow associated with that secondary Arctic push of air. And then let's move forward here. Again, there can be a stripe of snow accumulation from Nebraska all the way to Wisconsin over the next couple of days. The second Arctic blast arrives into the Rocky Mountain states Tuesday into Tuesday night, and again some accumulating snow associated with that blast. Here we go, the leading edge of the colder air in the Great Lakes region by the middle part of the week. Meanwhile, more accumulating snow places like Denver. Again, more accumulating snow for Denver, maybe temperatures in the single digits for sure, maybe even down to 0 degrees by the middle part of the week. And here we go, the Wednesday morning forecast. Now notice here, a lot of moisture starting to gather over the Gulf of Mexico, all headed to the north and east ahead of that cold front. It's like a very wet period in general for the eastern third of the nation Thursday into Friday as that slow-moving cold front arrives here. And here we go on Halloween Day. This is Halloween morning. Cold front sliding into the Ohio Valley, the western part of the Great Lakes. Rain ahead of the frontal system in the east. Windy conditions, mild for this time of year. The center of the cold blast right now at this particular time will be out across the Central Plains. And let's move ahead. And here we go. This is now Thursday night, Halloween night. The frontal system arrives in the eastern part of the Great Lakes, the Ohio Valley. Still ahead of the front in the east. Windy conditions on Halloween Day. Wet, occasional showers, and later on Thursday night, it very well could be some heavy rainfall in the I-95 corridor going into Friday morning. Right here, this is when the front arrives. Maybe midnight Thursday night into early Friday morning. Strong band of showers, maybe some embedded thunderstorms associated with that front. Look at these isobars across the Great Lakes. That'll be very windy and much, much colder air moving across the Great Lakes with some accumulating snow, maybe some snow bands, Great Lakes type of a snow effect as that colder air arrives at the end of the work week. And here we go, finally into the day on Friday. Turns cooler on Friday in Philly, New York City, D.C., and then even colder on Saturday right here, and here we have the Saturday morning forecast. And again, once this cooler air arrives in the east, it looks like it'll stick around for the northeast U.S., the mid-Atlantic region, right through the first week of November. And all in all, the month of November is looking quite chilly compared to normal in much of the eastern half of the nation. Well, one final map. Let's take a look at the 5-day forecast map by NOAA last night of the total precipitation amounts. Again, this is the next 5 days ending Saturday morning, and look at this. This is all associated with the transition to that colder air mass with this slow-moving cold front. A lot of this arrives in the Thursday to Friday time frame for the Mid-Atlantic, the Northeast U.S., and of course Thursday is Halloween Day. It looks like a wet day indeed, and there can be some heavy rainfall included in the passage of that cold front. It looks like late Thursday night going into Friday morning. More significant rain here across the Tennessee Valley over the next several days. This is again for the next 5 days, but a lot of rain as we make that transition to what looks like a warm first couple of days of the work week in the east, but then colder than normal by the end of the work week going into the upcoming weekend. That's it for now. For PerspectiveWeather.com, I'm meteorologist Paul Dorian.